Okay. Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody. We acknowledge the land upon which we work and live, the First Nations and their nations, and recognize their connection to the land, water, and community. We continue to learn, listen, and to grow together. And saying that, I'd like to call the meeting to order and approve of the agenda, please.
Be it hereby resolved that the agenda for the June 18th, 2025 regular meeting of council be adopted as printed and circulated. Okay,
can I get a mover and a second, please? Moved by Councillor Demers, second by Councillor Young. All in favor? And opposed, if any, and that's carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Not seeing any. And minutes from June 4th.
Be it hereby resolved that the minutes of the June 4th, 2025 regular meeting of council be adopted as printed and circulated. Okay,
can I get a mover and a second, please? Moved by Councillor Banbury, second by Councillor Barnes. All in favor? And opposed, if any, and that's carried. Any business arising for the minutes? Not seeing any. So what's happening is our auditor is supposed to be here. She's kind of tied up in traffic. She's down the list a little bit, but we're going to move her up as soon as she comes because she has another meeting that she has to attend, I think either in East or Tavistock or Zora. So when she comes, we'll finish up what we're in, and then we may go on to the next one, depending where we are. Okay, so we'll go into our public meeting.
Be it hereby resolved that council rise and go into a public meeting under the Planning Act to consider two applications for zone change, ZN 12503, Dale and Dana Ribling, and ZN 12504, Cole and Janie Yonshire, and that Mayor Peterson chair the public meeting.
Okay, can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Banbury, second by Councillor Demarest. All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Okay. I'm officially opening this public meeting, which is being held under the Planning Act for the purpose of hearing an application for official plan amendment and zone change in the Township of Blandford-Blenheim. I would like to advise those in attendance that the Ontario Land Tribunal has the power to dismiss an appeal if an appellant has not provided the council with oral submissions at a public meeting or a written submission before a bylaw is passed. Pursuant to recent changes under Bill 185, appeals are now generally limited to the applicant, a registered owner, a public body, specific persons, or the minister. I would like to ask those in attendance that if they wish to receive notification of council's decision, they should sign the sheet by the door at the rear of the room. Please include your mailing address to receive future correspondence. I would now ask council members to state any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. And not see any. There are two applications being considered today. The first application is for zone change ZN 1-25-03, Dale and Dana Ribling, for lands located at 925873 Township Road 13. The application is to amend the township zoning bylaw, and Dustin, if you could present that, please. Thank you, Dustin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon, members of council, staff, and those in attendance here today. The lands in question are currently 98 acres in size and currently zoned A2. A single detached dwelling currently exists on site with a square footage of approximately 3,276 square feet, and there's also a number of outbuildings associated with the livestock operation on site. Surrounding lands to the subject lands are generally agricultural in nature. And the application before you today is to allow for a detached additional residential unit, approximately 1,500 square feet in size. And a special provision is being requested to allow for an increase of the separation between the ARU and the principal dwelling from 98.4 feet to 811 feet. The applicants have provided a letter outlining their reasoning for the request, and a copy of that letter has been included in your package that you have received. In terms of comments, we did not receive any comments as a result of circulations to departments and agencies. As a result of the circulation to members of the public, one letter of concern was received, and I would note that the letter of concern did not object to the idea of the ARU, but it did object to the proposed location of the ARU. So, in terms of our analysis, the idea of a detached ARU on the lands generally meets the intent and purpose of both the provincial planning statement and the official plan. We would note that the proposed size of 1,500 square feet does meet the maximum size permitted under the zoning bylaw. But where we are not supportive of the application is in terms of the location being proposed. At 811 feet away from the principal dwelling, you're looking at over 8 times what is generally permitted in the zoning bylaw for the distance. And we do have concerns in terms of the location, as part of the reason we require ARUs to be so close to the principal dwelling is to ensure that when you're introducing a new receptor, when it comes to minimum distance separation, that you're putting it in the same cluster as the existing house, so that you're not theoretically sterilizing adjacent farms for any livestock operations that may or may not occur in the future. So by putting the ARU where it's being proposed at 811 feet, you are running the risk of potentially sterilizing parts of the farms to the south, southwest, and the west of the subject lands. And additionally, with the location, it would of course need a second access, which generally with ARUs you're supposed to be using the same as the principal dwelling. So again, staff are here not to object to the idea of an ARU. We certainly believe that there's a good argument for one on this property, but we do not support the proposed location, and we would advise the committee, or sorry, council, to not support it either.
Okay, are there any questions from council regarding the staff report? Councillor Demers?
Certainly, I think, we'd all like to support the continuity of the family farm, and it looks that that's certainly the intent of the owners here. Dustin, were you able to identify any other areas that would be potential places that they could put the ARU?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Demarest. Yes, in staff's opinion, there are alternative locations. Of course, we don't look at the same things that perhaps the applicant would. So I understand that they've identified there's a pet cemetery to the west of where you see the lawn there. I understand there's some vegetation and what have you, but in staff's opinion, these are not reasons to not consider these areas still. So if you look to the west on the lawn, we believe that there's a possibility there. And we also believe that there's an opportunity to explore, perhaps, Adam, if we could just go to plate 3, explore to the east of the, try to describe it, to the east you see a hedge that goes north-south. To the east of that is the septic bed, from my understanding. However, if you keep going east, there's an open lawn south of the pond that we believe, could be explored further. So again, I understand that perhaps the applicant won't agree with that, but that's our opinion for other ideas that could be explored further.
Thank you.
Anything else from council? Councillor Banbury?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Dustin, what about the possibility of, I've probably driven past this property, but I can't conjure it up in my mind. But what about the possibility of adding an addition to the existing residence and having that as your ARU? Would that be a possibility at all? I'm not familiar with this particular place, but.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Banbury, yes, that is a possibility to add it on to the existing house. And provided that they actually meet all the zoning requirements in terms of size and what have you, if that was the route that they decide to go through, they actually wouldn't likely need any sort of relief to facilitate that. The reason that we're here is for 2 reasons. 1, the distance, of course, but 2, because they're asking for a detached ARU.
Yeah, my thinking was if they want the farm to continue on in the family, they'd have a larger home possibly in the future to accommodate the family and so on, as opposed to having a separate residence down the road where you need a septic system and, the whole works well, driveway. Just a thought.
Anything else from council? I have one question. Are they using the existing septic system? Is that the plan? Not obviously if it's moved way over here, but if it was back into the other area, would they try to use it as well, or a new separate completely?
To you, Mr. Mayor, that would be a question I would have to perhaps direct to the applicant
Okay.
during their time to speak.
Okay. Anything else from council? No? Does the applicant or agent wish to speak regarding this application? Okay, if you want to come forward just to this stand that's here, and if you can just state your name, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Dale Reibling. My wife Dana and my daughter Delaney is also in attendance. to answer your question there with the family farm, my son Drake and my daughter Delaney both would be joint owners. And my daughter Delaney is married, my son Drake is not, but, so we'd have two separate dwellings for that.
Okay.
I understand we've looked at that also, on adding to the back, but then it's not quite big enough to be having a family abroad with that. To the east of the location there with the septic system, it would not be the same. The tank is closer to the house, but the filter bed is in that grassed area. And then I do believe the minimum distance from the road is 15 meters, is that correct, Dustin?
That's correct.
And I do, when we looked at that, it was left 8 meters from there to the berm to that irrigation reservoir to build. So it'd either that or push it into the field further. The other way, I know it sounds crazy maybe with the pet cemetery, but in '04 when Dad passed away, friends gave us a memorial tree. Kids were 2 years old and 6 years old. We didn't think anything of that down the road. And when his dog passed away that we inherited with the farm, we thought it was fitting that we buried it with that. Now we've continued on. So that's the reason for that, just that part there. But to the west of that yet there, that field now is alfalfa and hay. It doesn't show it, but there's pasture fencing that we have up. That's one of the reasons. The systematically tiled farm, the field there, we have a 6-inch header that runs alongside that long red building is our hog facility. And it runs probably 30 feet away from that building, right straight back to the open municipal ditch. So the 4-inch laterals, they run east or west to east. So that wouldn't impact them up there at all, because of course where the house would be or the ARU would be going, they would be cut off and capped off further into the field. Any other?
Okay. Any questions?
And we're open to,
Sure.
we're very much open to,
Yeah.
if we can put it someplace else, that's fine too.
Yeah.
We're not stuck in mud here, that's for sure.
Well, I think if council does decide not to, rather than turn this down, I would suggest we defer it, because if we turn it down, then you got to start all over again. So I think if that, I don't know what council's wishes are, but that's what my thoughts are, is we should at least do that. Any other thoughts from council or questions? I know for me, I thought it was a little bit far away. I'm a little worried of the kind of precedence it's going to set of moving it that far away. That was my first thoughts when I read it. You can almost see on that plate where the weeping bed is. I think you can see those stripes. I'm almost wondering if that's probably where they are on there.
That's correct.
My thoughts were to try and move it east, or I know it's in your pet cemetery place, but my other thought was, so that header from that barn, it goes all the way down along that tree line there, right to the
It
to the
starts at
ditch.
the road there and heads straight back alongside the barn.
Okay.
Where the old railroad, and that doesn't show.
Right.
Usually you could see where that went through, because the land was,
Yep.
there's nothing planted there, unfortunately, in that
Okay.
picture. You can sure tell where the old railroad that went from Stratford to Pears down through there.
Sure.
And so when we did the plastic tiling by Harry's in there, I remember this, that they had, before the railroad come out, we did a 6-inch header along the edge, and we had to tee into that and then take that directly back then once we did the barn.
Do you know how far off of that tree line, that main line would be?
It's roughly in line, that everything's pretty well straight with the pig barn there.
So right along the edge of that?
Yeah, so it's, goes within 20, 30 feet of that, and that's in the pasture area. That's
Yeah.
where it is. Now, the pastures are roughly 80 feet off that hedge and goes back as far back as that other smaller red building there.
Okay.
So we're not opposed either to, I'm just throwing this out there.
Yeah.
To go on the other side of the pasture if need be. It would mean we'd have to make another header on the top side of that end of it, but if we had to, right?
Yep.
That can easily be done, I guess.
Okay. What's council's thoughts? Anything? Oh, Councillor Demarest.
I would tend to agree with the mayor that, we certainly don't want to put a stop on any of this, because, I think I can speak for all of them that, we're willing to work with you to try to figure out an appropriate solution.
Yep.
It's just this MDS separation issue is a little bit of a showstopper because it compromises all your neighbors. Right? So, I would, like I say, I would tend to agree with the mayor. If we defer this, it'll give you another opportunity to, to maybe come up with another alternative.
We went through that with our pig barn too, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
With the house across the road, which is
Yeah.
the Whitmers there, so.
Okay. Anything else to the applicant? Nope, I guess not. Thank you very much. If we need you back up again, we'll call you.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Are there any interested parties in attendance who wish to speak to this application? No, I'm not seeing any. Okay. Are there any members of council that have any questions or require any further information for clarification? No? Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna come out of the public meeting, our auditor's here, so we're gonna come out quick. I guess we can probably deal with this one, and then we'll come back in for the other one, so, okay? Okay.
Be it hereby resolved that the public meeting be adjourned and that the regular meeting of council reconvene.
Okay, can I get a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Councilor Barnes, second by Councilor Banbury. All in favor? And opposed, if any, and that's carried. Okay. And now, yep.
To defer.
I think is council's thoughts to defer so that they can come up with a, okay. All right.
Be it hereby resolved that council defer the zone change application submitted by Dale and Dana Reibling, whereby lands described as South Half Lot 8, Concession 13, Blandford, in the Township of Blandford-Blenheim, to be rezoned from General Agricultural Zone A2 to Special General Agricultural Zone A2 SP, to permit a detached additional residential unit, ARU, on the subject lands, and further, that council directs the applicants to review and consider alternative locations for an ARU in order to reduce the maximum distance between an ARU and a principal dwelling, and return to a subsequent meeting.
Okay, can I get a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Councilor Young, second by Councilor Demarest. Any questions or comments on that? All in favor? And opposed, if any, and that's carried. So it's been set up to defer, and Dustin will be in touch with you guys as well. Okay? All right, now we'll go into our delegations, and we'll have Christine Scrimgeour, Auditor, Scrimgeour and Company. Welcome, Christine.
Good afternoon. Sorry I'm late.
No worries.
The traffic on there's a fair number of accidents on the 401. It's a torrential downpour at that part of the city, from the city here anyway. Anyway, good afternoon. These are the draft financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2024. I'll go through them as I usually do with my presentation. Please don't hesitate to stop me and ask me any questions that might come up as I'm moving forward. I do want to start out, as I always do, by thanking your staff, and specifically your treasurer, for all of her hard work in getting these done. We have very few journal entries every year, which indicates to me that the records are being maintained in a great way through the year, and that council can rely on them to make decisions as they go through the year. So thank you to her for all her help. It is clean auditor's opinion, which means that we didn't find anything materially incorrect. It is dated as of today's date under Canadian auditing standards. Those charged with governance, which would be this council, needs to approve them, and then we can finalize them. The next step is then to complete the FIR, which goes into the province, which is basically a breakdown of all these numbers into various components for the provinces to look at. All right, I'll go through the numbers. I'm on my page 3. I know you have different page numbers there, but so the statement of financial position, which would be your, yes, thank you, that would be your balance sheet. And I'll just, again, a high level, and if there's anything other specific questions, please don't hesitate. So a very busy year this year. Obviously, the Princeton Drain was completed. Phase of the Princeton Drain was completed. We then issued debt on that, both for our share, and some ratepayers chose to engage in debt for that as well. So you'll see under liabilities, that net long-term liabilities, there's new debt there. So last year I came to council and told you all your debt was paid off, and now I'm coming to council telling you that you may have some new debt now. So that's a significant new change this year. We also have, you'll see accounts payable are very high at the end of the year. That's not because you're not paying your accounts payable on time. It's because we have a fair number of vehicles, aerial truck, some snow equipment, and a tanker all on order. And so the way that works is because the way they work is as soon as you order them, you're ordering them to your specs, and so they are yours as of that date, even though you may not receive them. In some cases, it's a year or even more that you don't get them. And so that's what's sitting in accounts payable and accrued liabilities is those. And you'll see them come down under non-financial assets. You'll see there's a large increase in capital works in progress, and that's where they sit. So they're not being capitalized yet. They're just sitting in work in progress because they are ours, but we're not using them obviously yet. So that has skewed accounts payable significantly this year because of that. So coming down to that net financial assets, that's the line I'm always looking at. And again, there has been a significant decrease in that, but it's really because of those two items that I just mentioned, and neither one of them are of a concern. They're budgeted for. They're within your what you're planning to do in the next couple of years, and so I'm not concerned with that decrease because I know it will be eliminated once those vehicles come on site and get put into use.
Excuse me, Kristen.
Sure.
What portion of that 5.35 million would be
2
attributable
plus
to-
8 plus 7, so 2 plus 15, 3.5.
Okay, right. Yeah, so that actually puts us in a good liquidity position.
Exactly. So as soon as that happens, and again, some of those items, even though we've ordered them, they're not budgeted for it to be until 2025, right? So it will all flow through by the end of 2025. That should all be cleaned up. Okay. I had to add it in my head, sorry. All right, and then again, everything below that line are your non-financial assets, so the assets you have to have in place. And one of the other indicators I'm looking at is whether you're reinvesting in capital at the same level as your amortization. Your amortization cost is about $2.3 million, and so you're clearly reinvesting. You actually increased significantly your tangible capital assets even after amortization, and then as well all those assets that are on order. So definitely reinvesting. And when we get to the reserves, we'll see that those are still in a good position, so that's all good news. And again, I understand it's debt this year, but that's not a heavy load of debt compared to many municipalities of your size. Any questions on that statement at all?
Oh, not seeing any.
Okay. We'll go forward to the next page, please. So this is 3 columns, budget for 2024, the actual for 2024, and the actual for 2023. And again, I'll just sort of highlight things that I think council will be interested in, but again, please ask me if there's anything I'm not covering. So overall revenues are fairly consistent. The main increase there is one being user charges, and that was a few different things. It wasn't any one thing. Rec is up, building permits were up, and we also got a WSIB rebate that we got, and that's across the province. Anybody that was a WSIB user got that, including our own firm. And then the investment income obviously is up, and that's really just rates. If you think back in 2023, we were still having the beginning of that year was still at 1%, so obviously the rates have increased there. So those are really the main, and then the other line, that is for donations for the various, there's 2 different park projects that we had budgeted donations for, and they had not come in to the same level that we had thought the budget would, and then one of those is still in progress at the end of the year.
Yep.
Under expenditures, I'll remind council that we don't budget for amortization, so as I mentioned, that was $2.3 million. And then the other $2 million is in that line, transportation services, and that's the share of the Princeton Drain that is ratepayers on ratepayers land, that ratepayers helped pay for, and the County of Oxford helped pay for. And because it is your asset at the end of the day, we have to show it this way. And you'll remember last year's financial statements had that same issue, and so that's why it's very comparable to the prior year, but not to the budget. So there wasn't any major overspend in any of these areas. And really the only reason for the increase from budget is because of that. That next line down, that excess of revenue over expenditures, you'll see that's coming down, which is great, and that will be probably eliminated next year again once that drainage, the county's share of all of those expenses gets eliminated in the next year's statement. Other revenue and expenditures are just items that relate to capital. So this is where you see the money coming in from the county, that government transfer is related to capital. It's in that number, the county's portion of that. DCs and other contributions related to capital, and then just some loss on disposal of capital assets, and that's just the writing off of the net book value of what's left on any assets that we sold or replaced. Coming down to the surplus at the end of the year, $50 million. Any questions on that statement? All right, I will move forward. I think the next two statements, I've really covered the increases and decreases on the non-financial assets on the balance sheet, which is what your statement of cash flow shows. The next statement of change in net financial assets really just shows the increases and decreases in the capital assets, and I've touched on most of those numbers as well as I've been going through my presentation, so I won't spend more time on that either. I think the note that the council would be most interested in is the breakdown of the surplus. So there was an operating surplus of the year of $640,000. And part of that was the monies that we got from City of Woodstock, the annexation revenues that we received were higher this year, and I should have mentioned that on the income statement as well. That was one of the, and then the interest as well. Those were the two main components of that. But here's where you see that your reserves are actually increased by about $1 million from last year. And that's, if you remember back 2023, we were still dealing with the write-offs of property taxes related to automotive plants. And so we funded that in that year and had to deplete most of our reserves in that area. And so now we're building them back up, which is great. So even though we're investing in all of this new capital, and yes, we do have some new debt, but we also have, our reserves are in really healthy position. There's two schedules at the back of the statements, and one is the breakdown of the capital assets by components. And you can see of the $5.2 million of new assets, 4.1 is in the roads and bridges, and that drain would be in that as well. So, which is what you would expect from what I've been talking about through the whole presentation. And then the last schedule is a breakdown of revenues and expenditures by functions, which is those functions are what are displayed in the FIR, and so these are the numbers that will go forward to the FIR from these financial statements, and it comes down to the same net revenue as the statement of operations.
Perfect. Any questions?
I never get a perfect.
Questions from council? No? Everything looks good? Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. It's nice to see you on again.
Yep.
I apologize for being late.
Off to your next one.
What's that?
Off to your next meeting.
That's one of, I have 3 today.
Okay, go ahead.
Be it hereby resolved that the draft 2024 financial statements as presented by Christine Scrimger of Scrimger and Company be adopted as printed and circulated.
Okay, can I get a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Demers, second by Councillor Banbury. Any comments? All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Thank you. Okay, so now we'll go. Okay.
Be it hereby resolved that council rise and go into a public meeting under the Planning Act to consider one application for zone change, ZN 12504, Cole and Janie Yonshire, and that Mayor Peterson chair the public meeting.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, do you want a new mover? Okay, mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Demers, Councillor Young, all in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Okay, all right. The second application for zone change ZN 1-25-04 Cole and Janie Jansker for lands located at 906-447 Township Road 12. The application is to amend the township zoning bylaw, and Dustin, if you could present that report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The lands associated with this application are approximately 34 acres in size and currently zoned A2. They are considered to be an undersized parcel given that they are less than 39.5 acres and zoned A2. The lands are currently vacant but are used for cash crop, and to the north end of it has environmental features. To the west is a active aggregate pit, while the rest of the lands surrounding the subject lands are generally agriculture in nature. The proposal here tonight is to rezone the lands from A2 to an A2 special zone in order to allow for a single detached dwelling to be built on this undersized agricultural parcel. In terms of comments, we did not receive any comments from departments and agencies, nor did we receive any comments from members of the public. Now, I will point out, prior to the report being completed, like I said, there were no comments or concerns. However, it has recently come to my attention that there is now concern regarding the proposed location of the access from the original application. So that will have to be moved in order to satisfy sightline concerns. So I have provided you with a copy of the new proposal. The only thing that has changed, truthfully, is as you see the south side, the access is now going to go to the east, where before it was proposed to just go straight south onto the township road, but now it's going to go east and then onto the township road, and again, that's to satisfy concerns regarding sight lines. So tonight, instead of proposing that the application be approved, we are recommending that it be approved in principle, and that would allow us to update the amending zoning bylaw and aim to bring it back on July 2nd. And now, just in getting back in terms of our analysis, we do believe that the proposal does comply with both the provincial planning statement and the official plan. We do believe that the chosen location does minimize the amount of tillable farmland that would be taken out of production, while also ensuring that that fragmentation is not occurring on the lot as well. Now, given its location to the pit to the west, we did require the applicant to have a noise impact study carried out by WSP, and that noise study concluded that it was going to be acceptable to be located where it was, but they did recommend that a warning clause be registered on title, just so any future buyers are aware that, you know, there is a pit next door that could theoretically impact the property. So like I said, we are here to support the application, but we are recommending that instead of approval, we are recommending approval in principle to allow for the bylaw to be updated and brought back.
Okay, any questions or comments from council? Is that because, is there a hill there? Just thinking off the top of my head, that's probably why you're moving it.
To you, Mr. Mayor, it's my understanding there is a crest there. If for more information, I might have to turn to Mr. Borton to speak to that, though.
Yeah. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Makes sense then. Okay, anything else from council? Where's my sheet here? Right here. Okay, does the applicant or agent wish to speak regarding this application? Yep, if you just want to come up and state your name, please.
Sure. So I'm Cole Yonchar. Yeah, thanks for taking my application today. The land's been in our family since the 1950s. I grew up just across the road, kind of to the southeast there. And I'm hoping to bring my family back to a more like rural setting to instill the same values that I had when I was a child. I think we've worked pretty hard to create a site plan that respects both like the long-standing neighbors of the Sheetles, as well as the newer families like the Ramsayers on the side. We've also maintained the continuity with my family's long-time agricultural use of the land. And I did want to thank Ray and Dustin for their kind of information and support and all the help that they did during the planning here. You already mentioned the sound and vibration study. I think the kind of location that we had previously planned did a good job of maintaining safety and ensuring that the best use of agricultural land was maintained. And I think that the newly proposed adjustment still maintains the same principles. So I'm really hoping we can kind of continue moving forward from there.
Okay, any questions from council at all? No? None. Thank you very much. Okay, are there any interested parties in attendance who wish to speak to this application? No, not seeing any. Okay. Are there any members of council that have any questions or require any further information for clarification? No, not seeing anything. Okay, this application will be dealt with Moved by council at its regular meeting immediately following this public meeting, and I would now officially close this public meeting and a resolution to rise, please.
Be it hereby resolved that the public meeting be adjourned and that the regular meeting of council reconvene.
Okay, can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Demers, second by Councillor Barnes. Any comments? All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Okay, and now the,
Approve in principle?
yeah, I think so. Yeah?
Be it hereby resolved that council approve in principle the zone change application submitted by Cole and Janie Yonshire, whereby lands described as part lot 23, concession 12, Blenheim, as an A 1805 in the township of Blandford-Blenheim are to be rezoned from general agricultural zone A2 to special general agricultural zone A2 SP to facilitate the construction of a single detached dwelling on an undersized agricultural parcel.
Okay, can I get a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Demers, second by Councillor Banbury. Any comments? All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we have a delegation, Peter Wright. I'm just going to read off something that we normally read for delegations when they come. When addressing the council, please focus your remarks on the approved topic. Let's maintain a positive atmosphere by refraining from disrespectful language or personal attacks. Additionally, we request that you respect the decisions made by the mayor, me, and avoid engaging in debates with other attendees. Thank you for understanding your cooperation, and you may now proceed.
Where would you like me to speak from? With the microphone?
Right there, that would be perfect. Yep. We'll just put a little timer up there so you remind you
Sure.
where you're at.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pearson and councillors and those in attendance. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. Open, respectful dialogue with our municipal representatives is a democratic privilege that I'm deeply grateful for, because part of my life that was denied to me, as you'll hear in one moment. My name is Peter Wright. I'm a resident of Blandford-Blenheim Township. I moved to Canada in 2004 after losing my farm, my home, my business, and all my assets in Zimbabwe, and also spending 3 days in a police cell for the crime of not moving off my farm. When the government illegally stole my farm and the farms of 5,000 other commercial farmers, I've experienced a great personal cost. What happens to individuals, communities, and economies when governments abandon the rule of law, pursue ideologies, and deprive citizens of their rights? I'm grateful that I was granted permanent residence and, as soon as I qualified, Canadian citizenship. I was very happy living in Canada until the last few years, when the pursuit of ideologies at all levels of government and obeisance to dictates from unelected officials at local and international organisations caused me to think I'd jumped from the frying pan into the fire. Some time ago, I became aware of a growing grassroots effort in this county, supported by many of my friends and neighbours, that was questioning the excessive amount of taxpayer money being spent on global climate change policies and initiatives. I attended online an information town hall held in Mount Elgin so that I could better understand this local concern. Following that, I watched a video recording of the standing room only April 23rd delegation presented at Oxford County Council by Marie Russell of Norwich and Maggie Braun of Kickley, Canada. And I'm here today in support of their delegation and to urge Mayor Peterson and your council to move a motion for Oxford County to withdraw from the Partners for Climate Protection program. Add the resolution to an upcoming agenda, review it and vote on it. It's time for that conversation. I'm not an expert on climate change, nor did I come here to debate the issue. Please know that I support practical, locally driven environmental stewardship. I've been a farmer for most of my life, and I really do support that. My concern, though, is the disconnect between Oxford County Council, as expressed in the strategic plan, and the residents in Oxford. I believe each of you have received and reviewed all the material presented by Maggie and Marie, including the Kickley Oxford report, the petition with 777 signatures, and the letters and emails of support from residents of Oxford. It is my hope to demonstrate the obvious and stark contrast between the priorities of Oxford County Council and the people they represent. I have 2 slides. The first slide spells out from the strategic plan, climate action plans, we can see the list there, and strategic initiatives. And if we can have the second slide. The second slide is the results of a 2025 public budget engagement survey, and it asks people, residents of Oxford County, what would you say are the top 5 priorities for your community right now? Let's go through them. Affordable housing, safe communities, policing, active living, parks, trails, recreation, infrastructure, roads, bridges, stormwater, and long-term care. The answers to the question, what would you like Oxford County to achieve in the next 5 years? More agricultural preservation, safer communities, increase in housing, affordability and accessibility, and better and more infrastructure to accommodate growth. Nothing there about the items that were on the first slide in the strategic plan of spending a lot of taxpayers' and residents' money on various other topics. So that's why I talk about a disconnect. It's my belief that decisions and policy directions of Oxford County Council should reflect the values, concerns and issues that impact our 8 municipalities. We as residents are funding this, not the personal agendas or ideology of certain people. Your decisions matter, and the community is watching. Here in Blandford-Blenheim, like all other communities in Oxford, families and individuals are experiencing significant financial and social struggles. This is reported on in many different media. This should be the priority of us all. Now is time for Oxford County Council to refocus on local concerns and withdraw from the voluntary PCP program. My recommendation today is that this council support Mayor Peterson in moving a motion at County Council and begin the conversation. Thank you for your time and public service.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from council? Not seeing any. I just want to say I agree 100% on the democratic process. Whether we agree, disagree on whatever the topic is, I always think it's prudent of council to listen to the residents to come and have their say, and I welcome you for coming here with your say. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, I think so.
Be it hereby resolved that the delegation from Peter Wright regarding concerns about the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and Partners for Climate Protection Programming be received as information.
Okay, can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Barnes, second by Councillor Banbury. Any comments? All in favor? And opposed, if any, and that's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we're into correspondence specific, right?
Yep, Christine Cesario.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and...
You want me to read it first?
Yeah, is there anybody on the fence, the letter that came through about the fencing in Princeton? Any questions on that? And then I'll get into the comments after we read it. Go ahead, Councillor
And
Hammer.
this might be consistent with what you're talking about. I think the letter referenced precedent. And I was racking my brain trying to think if there was an example of that. Do you recall, or does anyone recall that?
Not that I know of.
Something like this
My thoughts on the matter is if it was if we were going to have say those houses were all there, and we were putting a ballpark in, then I think we would be responsible for putting a fence up. That's my thoughts on the matter. If the with the homes that are there, people bought them and knowing that it's in their backyard, that's my thoughts on that process. And I think if we start putting a fence up, we could be putting a lot up in other areas. That's my thought on the letter. Any other questions from council?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, they want to go half and half, is that the idea?
Yeah, I think so.
It would depend on what kind of a fence they want to put up. There's quite a
Yeah.
variation. If you're putting up a
Yeah.
solid board fence made out of cedar, then it's
There
crazy.
There was a fence there, and it's been, I think the tenants removed it, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep, if you want to come up, Trevor, for sure.
So the new owners bought the house. They're and the shop never had a fence behind it where the Flying Wrenches was. But the new owners, there was an old fence there that was removed. We have never put up a fence along park property except for new park properties.
Yeah.
So when we did the park expansion in Princeton, we put up a 4-foot chain link fence along the property line because it was a new park expansion. We have never put up a fence between residence house and the park before in the past. But if we were to expand the parks, we have added fence to the expansion of the park because they didn't back onto a park beforehand. That's kind of what we've done in the past, and that was in the Princeton Park expansion. There's a fence put up behind the house residence there. And what was the other question about?
I don't know if there was another. Councillor Young.
Are there any other ball diamonds in our township that have homes along them?
Bright has some fences. The developer put up those fences when they did the development there.
Plattsville.
Plattsville, no.
Well, they're
Along the back of not to
Where
the
the-
baseball diamond.
yeah.
But when any new development, fences have been put up
yeah.
along the Plattsville. There are one commercial resident in Bright that doesn't have a fence up along the side. One in Plattsville, or one resident in Plattsville doesn't have a fence up, but that's butting up against the park. Drumbo has 4 butting up against the park, and Princeton has 7 homes butting up against the park.
Against the park or the ball diamond?
The park as a whole. Because they'd be pretty close to the ball diamond, but they're probably 40 feet away from the ball diamond, 40 or 50 feet away from the ball diamond.
Who, Princeton?
In Princeton, yes. Yeah.
I was just trying to think of any homes that are right against the ball diamond in any other town, and I can't think of any.
Princeton would probably be the closest,
the only one
I would say. Well, Bright's got
Right,
some straight out the
but
outfield.
But there are fences along
Yeah.
their
Do you
fence.
rent the Bright Diamond to play baseball often?
Yeah, minor balls in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Go ahead, Councillor Banbury.
I was sitting on the fence on this one, but I think people who live next to a ball diamond, they just,
Yeah.
okay. There was-
Just one thing I want to address council a little bit too. If, I know the last meeting, I don't know if it was because of our mic system or what, but a lot of residents could not hear our conversation. So let's try to just make sure, I know there was a couple that said they couldn't hear them at all. If we can just make our mics when you're, so that people can hear. Thanks, sorry, go ahead, Councillor.
What I'm thinking is, maybe by not having a fence there, we're infringing upon the rights of the residents who live there. So in some cases, I don't see a problem with paying for part of the fence. Because I think generally, you know, if a person were to go to court, say they wanted to take us to court on this, I think the judge would probably say, well, you're infringing upon the enjoyment of their property. If people are taking a shortcut through their property to get to the park, or the ball's coming over and hitting their picnic table or something, whatever, I think you'd probably be forced to build a fence. So I don't know, how much fence would be entailed here?
We never did a measurement on the properties, but are you asking for all the properties that butt onto the park, or just the ones that have requested a fence?
Well, just, I guess just the ones that are affected by the ball diamond. I guess, how many properties would there be?
In Princeton, there'd be about 7, and they're probably far enough away from the ball diamond, some of them. This one's by the booth more,
Yeah.
and the pavilion. That's probably why we're getting this request in, because it is.
And the garage there, they're kind of concerned as well, eh?
Yep, they're in this letter as well,
Yeah.
the garage and the property next to the garage.
I don't think, well, they put vehicles across, so people can't drive in and park there.
Yep, they've addressed that in the letter, what they do there, yep.
But by the same token, people park on the main street and just walk through their property to get to the ball diamond.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, they have. Yep, that's what's in the letter. saying.
My personal opinion, if it's new, if it's been there for a while, I'm afraid of opening that door of doing it. But if it's a brand new, if we put a new park in, 100% we would fence it in. I think it's up to council, but I know for me, I don't think it's.
I was thinking that with the ball diamond being only 30 feet off people's yard, maybe not even that.
Yeah.
I think I'd be in favor of putting a fence as far down as the fire hall to block that section just where the ball diamond is, because there's people right there all standing behind there, right in people's backyards is what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I think we should.
Now, some of these fences have been torn down though, right?
There was one property that tore the one fence down. There was never a fence behind flying wrenches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's the one property had a fence up around it, and it was taken down, and the flying wrenches has never had a fence up. They have built a new fence between flying wrenches and the resident property, but there's no fences along the back of them.
Yeah. So what's council's thought?
Yes.
Councilor Demers.
Do we have adequate exits
Keep it down.
from the,
Guess that's
from
the-
baseball diamond area where people hang out? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, is
To get to the main parking lot, yes.
Yeah, I'm
So
wondering why people are
they're parking, they're
going
just,
through people's.
they're just parking.
It's not-
I would think through flying wrenches, if that's what they're saying they're doing, they're probably just parking on the street, walking through.
Okay.
They've walked through the fire department before.
So they don't want to go down a little ways and take
Right.
the path across.
And if the main parking lot's full, people will park on the street. You're allowed to park on the street, so they'd have to go down, they'd have to go down the street. There is no sidewalk out in front of there, so maybe they just cut in through there.
I think some of them cut through just because the ball diamond's so far.
You can see it.
Far in.
Yeah.
So they come through without walking all the way from the parking lot.
Right.
Yeah, people tend to take the road of least resistance, so.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So there might be some of these properties that don't want a fence,
Right.
right?
Well,
So-
there's only 2 properties requesting a
Yeah.
fence right now.
So, do you want to defer this and have Trevor bring a report back? Is that, or what's council's thoughts here?
I think that would be a good idea, to talk to the other residents and see what you can put together.
And give us a cost of what it's
Yep.
gonna,
Yep.
because obviously it's a budget item, so I don't know if
Yeah,
we could
it-
even do it this year or not anyway.
They may not all agree on what type of fence they
Yeah.
want, what kind would be just put
Well,
up
I think
anyway.
we'd have to, if we're gonna, there'd be a standard of 4-foot chain link fence.
Yeah,
And if they, the agreement would have to be that. And if they wanted a different fence, that's all we're putting our funds towards, is something like
Their
that.
half
So,
would be based on the chain
Yep,
link.
yep.
yeah,
If we were to do it, we can bring back a report for that, for
yeah.
council.
I think that's maybe the best way to go.
Yep.
Because like I say, I don't know how many are there. And maybe while you're at it, if there's any in any of the other villages, which I can't think of any right now.
There's 4 in Drumbo, that they're not backing onto if we're talking parkland now, we're talking park. There's 4
Yeah.
in Drumbo, there's 1 in Plattsville, 1 in Bright, and there's 7 in Princeton that are backing onto the park that don't have fences around their properties.
'Cause I think you could, that's what I'm saying. I'm afraid of once we start this, if we do it for one, we got to do it for them all, right? But I think if we have a,
I think when we look at where the homes are
yeah,
in the other places,
Yeah.
that we have to take that into consideration. When you look at the map for Drumbo, there's no house near the baseball diamond like there is in Princeton.
No.
So I
think
don't
it's-
think it's a comparable,
yeah.
in my opinion, I don't think Princeton ball diamonds are comparable
Mm,
to the Plattsville
yeah.
ball diamond.
Yeah, and I think it's not just ball too, like we could have soccer. I think that's the one in Drumway, you're talking soccer, it's like right on.
Soccer, yeah, it would be soccer, that
Right.
we could get complaints from the soccer, or from the residents about soccer, yes.
Yeah,
People don't come in that way, though,
No,
from
No.
parking. Like,
No.
they're not gonna,
No, that's
go
the-
across those
Yeah.
backyards.
That's the
So
south.
That's why I was asking about natural
Yeah.
paths of exit. Like,
Okay.
if we're providing those and people aren't
Yeah.
using them, then there's,
Bright,
Basically trespassing.
yeah, Bright has a gate coming right in from that end, right? Coming up that street.
no,
Is there not an opening?
there's no fence along the back of the
There used to be, didn't there, a fence there?
Yeah, we removed the fence. It was kind of falling apart.
Okay,
But there's no houses. It goes right to the street.
okay,
The side of Bright Park is fenced in.
okay.
And there's
Yeah.
the one commercial
And
property.
There's no senior ball there anyway anymore, so we probably wouldn't have to worry so much about the ball itself going in there.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This isn't really going to
Okay.
stop a ball from going into their backyard. This
Yeah.
is just, if you read if reviewing the letter, it was more people going through their backyards, not
Yeah.
baseball, so.
And that's
Okay.
really where the risk is.
Yeah.
You know, someone coming on their property and getting hurt or jumping
Yeah.
on their, you know, that, it's a
Trampoline or
risk
something,
to
yeah.
to those people, right? So I can
Yeah.
appreciate why they're
Yeah.
concerned.
Okay, well, let's defer it and have a report come back, and then we can make our decision at that time. Does that sound fair to council?
That sounds
That
good.
sounds
Okay.
good.
Okay, perfect.
Be it hereby resolved that the specific correspondence be received as information, and further, that council directs staff to bring a report back to a subsequent meeting.
Okay, can I get a mover and second, please? Moved by Councilor Barnes, second by Councilor Banbury. All in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, next is our general correspondence.
Be it hereby resolved that the general correspondence items be received as information.
Okay, can I get a mover and second, please? Moved by Councilor Young, second by Councilor Banbury. Go ahead.
I'm wondering if we could perhaps see the attachments to the agenda. Because for the Oxford OPP Detachment Board, because when you read it, they're referencing documents, but you don't have the documents, so you don't know
Oh.
what they're talking about.
I see what you're saying.
You can only guess, yeah.
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 Here, I'm sure we can do that. Anything else about it at all? I know it was all good news as far as our stormwater system performance. That's it. Okay? Yep, all in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Okay, we'll get over to staff reports, and Dustin. Welcome, Dustin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The staff report in front of you here tonight is to consider an extension to a previously approved draft plan. This was for SB 10-06-1, which received draft approval back in August of 2012. For the approval at the time, there were 34 lots for single detached dwellings, 8 lots for live workspaces, and 2 blocks for highway commercial. Since 2012, a total of 5 extensions have been provided by council. This would be the 6th. The last one was in 2023, and that was for a 2-year extension, which takes us to August 31st, 2025 of this year. Now, I believe this council and previous councils are well aware of this property. So as you likely know, there is another draft plan submission coming to council, which would replace this one. And it would see an increase in the number of homes that would be on this site, and there would still be a commercial block. So the reason that the applicants are asking for another extension is to ensure that this remains as a viable option if their new submission is perhaps denied or what have you. Now, council will see this new submission very soon, likely the August meeting. But again, the reason they're asking for this extension is to ensure that if something were to happen to the new one, that they have this option to consider. So we are here recommending that the Township Council support their request for a 1-year extension, and that would take the elapsing date to August 31st of 2026.
Okay. Any questions from council?
It's getting to be a habit.
Yeah, I think it started when I first, about my first meeting, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll save some comments for after. Okay, if you go ahead.
Be it hereby resolved that council advise Oxford County that the township supports a 1-year extension of draft approval for the plan of subdivision submitted by Westside Communities, Plattsville Incorporated, SB 10061, for lands described as part lots 16 and 17, concession 12, Blenheim, and parts 1 and 2, plan 41R 8446, Township of Blandford-Blenheim, to August 31st, 2026, to provide additional time to register the plan of subdivision or process submitted applications for draft plan of subdivision, official plan amendment, and zone change.
Okay, can I get a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Barnes, second by Councillor Young. Comments? I'll make a couple, I guess. So one thing I do like, I like to see that they're going from 42 units to 115 units. I do like that. The one thing that kind of bothers me, absolutely quite bothers me, is the decrease in size of the commercial block from 6.9 acres to 3.9 acres, which is almost half of what they recommended. And I think they were here, was it 2 years ago they would have been here? And I know the same concept was kind of thrown up, and I remember making the point at the time to not, that I know personally for me, I wasn't interested in reducing that commercial size. So I'm a little disappointed that it come back with the thoughts to reduce that commercial size. So I'm hoping when it comes in August that 3.9 acres is increased up, because I hate, it's something that we are lacking in commercial. I know we're lacking in homes, but we are really lacking in the commercial aspect of it. When you look to the north of our township, there's no gas stations up there at all. There's nothing. So that was something I wanted to see in that commercial block that's in there. I know the old was two separate units. I'm guessing with 3.9 acres that they're probably going to reduce that down to one parcel of land instead of two. So that's just my comments. If they are listening, I hope that they increase that acreage up on the commercial side of it. So.
They are here.
Okay. Yeah.
Virtually.
Okay, virtually. Okay. Thank you. Anything else from council? Councillor Demers.
Dustin, just so I understand, if we don't vote in favor of the extension, what's the implication?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Demers, if council were not to give an extension here tonight, they certainly can try again. However, if August 31st, 2025 hits and no extension is given, then this has lapsed and we would be looking to start from scratch. They would not be able to proceed with this.
Yeah, I know my thoughts, kind of wait for it to come back again. Like Councillor Banbury said, we've both been here a while, and this has been not the same group. It's a different, I think this is like maybe the fourth group, maybe, or fifth, maybe. I'm not sure that's came over the last, I don't know how many years. But I know my thoughts were is, I know we could grant a 2-year, but I was, I'm okay with granting a 1 year, hopefully, and they're going to come back in August with some sort of plan that we can finally get this property moving. Councillor Banbury.
Yeah, it would seem, Mr. Mayor, that communities like Plattsville, they're kind of suffering growth pains in the sense that they're not big enough to attract a whole bunch of chains, you know, McDonald's or Tim Hortons or what, you name it. But once you would reach a certain population, which Plattsville will eventually, well, you know, it's like a snowball. Once it starts rolling, one chain moves in and, you know, stores come along and everything just mushrooms.
Yeah.
But you have to reach that threshold before you get much commerce. On the other hand, it would be nice to save some of that property, and because that's an ideal location. It'll be basically in the downtown portion, right on the main street. But in the meantime, it makes probably more sense to absolutely have more homes there, residences, of one kind or another. But I don't know. They'll outgrow their growing pains, and everything will happen in a big hurry someday.
I know I've had
Another 20 years.
I know I've had many residents ask about a gas station there. Not just one or two either. It's been a lot. I think of what we have here close to Drumble. We have 3, and there's nothing in that whole end up there at all. But yeah, I just hate to lose that commercial aspect up there, And I know we did it across the road years ago. I wish, honestly, if I could go back, I would vote against that. I wish we never did. It's water on the bridge, it's there. But I know I look here just in this village as well, in Drumbo, the commercial, there's just all of our villages, if you take all 4, we have little to no commercial expandability. Now with our strategic plan that we did here, we allowed to have some more commercial property. And I understand it. You can financially gain by putting more, the amount of lots, housing lots, you're going to make a lot more money on housing. So I understand that part as a planner, and it is about making money. I understand that. But I'm looking down the road that Plattsville's getting to be a fair size now, and there's another expansion going to the north. And with this one there, they're going to be really, because you got to have those other services. You can't just, you don't have houses. If you have houses and you don't have the other services to go on with it, then your town has a hard time growing because it doesn't have those services. So anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. Councillor Demarest.
I think the thing that frustrates me about this one in particular is that municipalities are always getting the finger pointed at them for red tape and for holding things up and doing all the necessary studies, et cetera, that need to happen to protect the environment, et cetera. We're always getting the finger pointed at us. And since 2012, this thing's been dragging on.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
It has everything to do with whoever the developer is.
Yeah.
So, get on with it.
Yeah. I'm really hoping that this group is ready to go, and it sounds like they're going to bring something in August, and hopefully we can get something going. Because I know the residents of Plattsville, I'll see social media posts, they'll say, oh, there's a sign up again. And I think they're kind of like us. Everybody keeps waiting for it to come. So, okay, is that everything from council? All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Thank you, Dustin. Okay, and Jordan. Okay, and we need Jordan Sangers, Supervisor of Asset Management in Oxford County. Welcome, Jordan.
All right, do I have to press? No, I'm good?
It should be good, yep.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yeah, so I'm Jordan Sangers, the Supervisor of Asset Management at Oxford County. I've been the one coming to Blandford-Blenheim for the last couple of years through the Shared Asset Management Services Agreement. So the point of this report is it's really a follow-up on the asset management session that was completed 2 or 3 weeks ago by Jen, which the aim of that was just to kind of assist council in understanding how the asset management plan works, because it is a pretty large document. So yes, the point of this report is to approve that. I do want to apologize. I wasn't able to complete that session myself. That was the plan. I had some family matters come up, so Jen was able to step in on my behalf. She wasn't as familiar with the data as I would be for questions and whatnot, so again, just apologize for that. So this asset management plan, we're ensuring that the township is compliant with the final phase of OREG 588/17. So that's the regulation that governs municipal asset management in Ontario. So this makes sure that we're compliant with that. The plan it's highlighting the township's asset inventory, including replacement costs, risks, conditions, etc. The township's replacement costs were sitting at roughly $367 million to replace all of Blandford-Blenheim. It's a big number. The big focus on this phase of the regulation is proposed service levels. So that relates to the scenarios that Jen went through at that last council session. It's also detailed in the plan. So just kind of a brief, summary of that. So as part of the AMP, we created those 4 scenarios that Jen went through for each of the asset classes or asset categories. And then we went through with staff and kind of picked a proposed service level. So then what this plan does is there's a financial section where we have to then report on how do we meet that proposed service level over the next 10 years. So that is part of the regulation as well. I do want to note that, so the proposed increases that are in this asset management plan, council isn't approving those increases right now. They're approving the proposed service levels for the asset management plan. Those increases would then become base budget when we look at the 2026 budget. So then at that point in time, council would be able to review those changes with any other, operating pressures that come along. So you're not actually approving those. This isn't the first time you're going to see the asset management plan, so it's a living document. So really, it's going to come back to council every year before budget time. Maybe not as the full asset management plan itself, but as an update to the asset management plan. So pretty much so we can look at what progress has been made over the last year and kind of address any changes that maybe came from budget, right? If we're recommending an increase in this asset management plan and at budget time that changes, we'll rerun those scenarios and then we can look at the 10-year, 100-year forecast again and say, okay, what do we have to do now? Yeah, that's really all I had. Again, I'm the one in Blandford-Blenheim's data all the time. So if you do have any specific questions on the plan or kind of anything from that session a couple of weeks ago that you wanted some clarification on, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you very much. Any questions at all from council? I know we had lots of questions last time. I think most of us got pretty good answers, and it's definitely something that we have to think of a little bit more as we're going through our budget process. I think it's something that we all know is there, but every time we add a feature in our park or wherever, whether we buy a truck, whether we put in splash pads, which are all great, and I'm glad we did them all, but we have to think of that down the road. And we may not be on council 20 years from now or whatever when the next splash pad goes in or whatever, we have to replace it. But it's something that we have to think of as we're budgeting going forward to make sure that we're covered for it. So, anything else? No? Thank you very much.
Be it hereby resolved that report TR 2508 be received as information, and further that the 2025 asset management report be adopted.
Okay, can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Demers, second by Councillor Banbury. Any comments? All in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's carried. Okay, thank you. And next, Drew Davidson, our Director of Protective Services, please. Welcome, Drew.
Afternoon, Council. Mr. Mayor. Just here to present my monthly report for the month of May. We were down in Ingersoll at the live fire training with our recruits, and that went very well. We had plenty of opportunity to learn new skills as they worked their way through the day, and anytime you can learn live fire in a controlled environment, it's a great learning opportunity. Our recruits did fantastic down there. They have completed their practical testing now and are working on hazmat, so they're very close to completing all certifications in that aspect, and they will be receiving their pagers and be full-fledged responding with the Princeton. We have the 3 from Princeton Station this round. Working with our cancer prevention and our checklist from the province there. One of the items is the interior of the cabs and just the carcinogens that are in that particular area. So once a year, we have somebody come in and professionally clean the interior of the cabs, and then that way it's up to the firefighters to maintain that when they go to a call and they come back, wipe it down, keep that cleanliness that's in there. We feel that it's a new initiative. Our firefighters are catching on very quickly, and it's just another way of maintaining our fleet as well in good condition, taking pride in that as well. So that's gone over very well. Camp preparations are well underway, and we had all the camp participants come out. They were sized and everything on a particular evening. We had a meeting last night with the committee that each station is prepared. One thing just to note is our day in Princeton, which is on the Friday. We're going to move to Plattsville this year just due to the construction that's in town. So the Friday will be in Plattsville this year. Some capital work that we had approved in the budget has started. If you notice, the cement pad was replaced out at the Drumbo station. I want to thank Public Works as the 2 trucks were able to go out there for the week, and they did respond to a couple calls from that location, and it was pretty seamless from the township yard. So I want to thank them on that. And just an update with the Drumbo pumper. We were over to the repair shop last week. It's all put back together. It should be in the paint booth right now, and all the parts are there. We should see it back in a couple weeks. So hopefully we'll get everybody back in their homes very shortly. That's my monthly report.
Okay, any questions on the report? Nope, I'm not seeing any. Okay. Go ahead.
Be it hereby resolved that report FC 2509 be received as information.
Okay, can I get a mover and seconder, please? By Councillor Young, second by Councillor Barnes. Any comments at all? No? Okay, all in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Thank you, Drew. Okay, our next is Ray, Chief Building Official.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Welcome, Ray.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Council, if I may, submit my monthly building report for the month of May. We issued another 7 permits. Again, it's a little bit slow, but hopefully she picks up eventually. Of course, if there's any questions, happy to answer them.
Any questions from council? No? Hopefully the weather picks up.
Hopefully.
Looking like it so far.
Yeah.
Last few days.
Hopefully interest rates go down.
Hopefully.
Yeah, that too. Okay. Go ahead.
Be it hereby resolved that report CBO 2506 be received as information.
Okay, can I get a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Banbury, second by Councillor Demarest. Any comments? All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and next is Jim Borton, Director of Public Works. He's got 2 reports today. The first one is Princeton Phil. I'm sure a few residents will like comments from this one, I think. A few comments.
We're not building a ski hill?
Yeah.
Could use it for revenue. Come on.
Yeah.
So this report is regarding the fill in Princeton from the Princeton project, from both the 2 pond sites as well as the road construction. As it says in my report, in order for the township to be compliant with OREG 40619, the excess soil, we have stockpiled it and then done our testing to ensure where we can safe to dispose of that soil. So we are happy to report that all the piles have been tested and they are able to be used in pretty much all of the uses that we don't have to get rid of. We don't have any contaminated soil we need to get rid of or store remediation for, which is really good news. We have been moving quite a bit of soil the last couple of years for different projects. Currently, the west pond, that pile is almost completed. Again, it is a large construction project that has taken most of that. We do have some farms that are taking some loads as well. We will be working on getting rid of those piles, at least from the pond, which are the older piles first. Hopefully by the end of the year, those will be gone, and then we can work on the piles that are in the village on Railway and Gissing Street.
Okay, any questions from council? Councillor Banbury.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Are you allowed to fill irrigation ponds that aren't functioning anymore? Like, there's tons of irrigation ponds around the country back when tobacco was king that aren't being used. They're just...
So we need to consult with GRCA to ensure, we have to look at their mapping to ensure that it hasn't been designated as a significant wetland or a significant breeding ground, that type of a thing, before we can fill that in. We have had some farms that can take a lot of fill. Unfortunately, they're in a designated area, and we can't do that.
I'm just thinking, as an example, the one that's right beside where they're putting the fill for the fire hall, that could be probably filled in.
That is one of our locations. The Fizzaires have asked us about that, and we have looked into it, and that area will get filled with.
Oh.
Yeah.
Anything else from council? Just want to make sure I'm clear, because I know well, if not myself, some of us get. So will there be any dirt piles left at the end of this year?
The stuff that is on Railway Street and Gissing Street will remain. Our concentration for 2025 will be the 2 pond sites.
Okay. Because I know the ones on railway, they've been there quite a while, right? 2 or 3?
Since the first phase, so this will be the second year that pile is there.
I know a lot of residents
Yeah.
on that street are really asking to get rid of those dirt piles. I've had many conversations. So if we can somehow get rid of, especially the stuff that's on we have some on this side as well, right?
Yes, we have some
Yeah,
on the
especially
two
the
sides.
stuff that's on the south side, because it's been there right close to those homes there for a long time, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of that pile was taken over the winter, and
Yeah.
as we do get, a lot of it depends on what they're type of fill that they're looking for.
Yeah.
As to which pile they're taking from.
Yeah. My only concern, I guess, is if we put a final pave and then we drive 500 trucks loaded with it, is it going to mess up that final pavement? That's my biggest concern with all that, so. Just a curiosity, how, that project there, I know we got behind because of the rain. Are we still behind a little bit on that project, or are we kind of back to schedule, you know?
Are we, the Princeton project?
Yeah.
The construction project?
Yeah, this year's portion of it.
We're probably maybe a week behind our initial schedule, but they have, since they've got onto Main Street, been able to make up some time.
Okay.
So the hope is that we'll still finish as scheduled.
Okay. Great. Anything else from council? Okay, Councilor Banbury, go ahead.
It's too bad that the CN's not building their extra rail line along the north side there. They could use all that fill. I wonder if CN would be interested in, is there still a siding on the north side there? Maybe they'd like that fill, haul it, they can haul it anywhere they want to use it. Ever contacted CN about that?
I have never contacted CN about Phil, no. I will certainly reach out to our
Couldn't be any handy to the rail
contact.
track.
Yeah.
Speaking of the rail track, has there been anything at all from them on that crossing? I know our next talk is going to be about speed humps, but that's
Yes.
probably the best speed hump you can get.
That's-
It's really bad, like it's,
There's a section of it that it's very terrible, yes.
Yeah.
I've talked to the county again about it, and they're supposed to be working with them.
Yeah.
They had hoped that it would be all done in conjunction with the construction, but I haven't heard.
wonder if we should, so is that's CN's responsibility though, right, on there?
It's their right of way, yes.
I wonder if we should, I can't think of the fellow's name.
Salvatore, somebody.
Yeah, that's what, I wonder if we should maybe contact him again and, with our concerns. They seem to listen to us. I'm being facetious. All right, anything else from council? Okay, go ahead.
Be it hereby resolved that report PW 2509 be received as information.
Okay, can I move in a seconder, please? Moved by Councilor Barnes, second by Councilor Demarest. Any comments? All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. And your second report, three-way stops.
So this is in the village of Plattsville. We discussed this during our capital project tour. It was brought to our attention to look into. So this is a report on the status of that. So we're looking at having two three-way or all-way stops on Fennel Street. One would be at the intersection of Todd Way, and the second would be at the intersection of of Applewood Street. We've looked at the TAC guide, which is the Transportation Association of Canada guidelines for this type of work, intersections, sight lines, closeness to other intersections. So the one on Todd Way, there's no concerns with. The one that would be on Applewood Street, there are some concerns with its close location to Joshua Court. Now, due to our low speed limit and low volume on that road, it is discretion of council and the township. If we wish to put the three-way stop in there, we would just have to have a clause on file stating that, yes, we looked at the TAC manual, we realized that that intersection does not meet with the guidelines. However, due to our traffic flows, speed limit, we proceeded for safety reasons. The concern with the TAC guide is people would get stuck at that intersection because of vehicles stopped at the all-way stop. Obviously, with our flow of traffic and traffic counts on that street, that would probably never happen. So we do have that flexibility to override that guideline on those circumstances. The other option that we looked at, there is a sidewalk that comes down from Applewood to Fennel, which then connects Fennel into the park. We could put, as another traffic calming measure, what is called a tabletop cross-section there, a crosswalk. So this isn't your typical speed bump. It would, essentially, it's a tabletop. It's a flat surface on the top, typically anywhere from 2.5 to 4 meters wide.
Like they did on the main street of Paris?
Very similar, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. It just identifies it, makes people slow down when there is pedestrians crossing there, or at it all the time they're driving down that road. We thought that that would be a good location, as it does join those residents to the sidewalk on the west side that would connect them to the park. So at this time, what staff is looking for is direction if council wishes to proceed with all of it, any of it. What are their council's thoughts?
Okay. Go ahead.
I do have a question I should have asked, earlier, Jim, when I was talking about the speed changing from 40 to 50 on. I know that's not part of this conversation, but just wondering how that ever could be addressed, that it remain a 50 on Fennel. That's my part A to my question. If that's something that is possible or not. I just think, because when people, as we've kind of talked, people fly down Fennel, and then there's no sidewalks after pretty much Applewood.
Yep.
And the speed increases. So there's no sidewalks, the speed increases, and there's a turn. So it's all these elements for a dangerous portion of that. Is it ever possible to, I mean, I think that doesn't, we know people are not going to be like, oh, it says 40, I'm going to go 40. But I think they see it goes from 40 to 50, and they think, oh, I can speed up. So that's my first question.
Yep, so the 40 zone, again, was put there partially because of the sidewalk crossing into the park, as well as the bends through. Again, council has that complete discretion if we would like to investigate and have that changed to so that Fennel is a 40 all the way through. That can certainly be looked at.
I know that's another conversation, but I think all of these, I know this is questions, so I'll hold my comment.
Okay. Any questions from council?
I kind of like the idea of that tabletop crosswalk.
Yep.
I was in Carlton Place last week, and I encountered 2 or 3 of those there.
Yeah, they are becoming more and more popular.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions from council? Okay, go ahead.
So I have a resolution reading to install 2 3-way stops and then report back on the traffic calming effect of the stop signs and report back regarding the tabletop crosswalk.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think all 3 of these ideas, all 3 suggestions, the 2 3-way stops and the crosswalk, personally, I think the crosswalk is an important piece to this, because it connects that whole upper community to the school, to the park. It's used very often. So I think that is an important piece. I think I think all of it together is really a positive.
So I think if we do this is just me thinking here, if we do the 2 3-way stops, we can do them this year, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
that will
and
be
the other
coming out of
one,
the operating.
I think, because it's a budgetary item, so I think that's by that resolution that she has, if we approve the 2 3-way stops, then we can include that, we can have that discussion at budget time for next year for that tabletop or whatever you call it, crosswalk. Does that sound
Yeah.
That's
fair
what
with
I was
council?
thinking too.
Yeah, that was my thoughts.
Do that
And,
right away.
yeah, and then by then too, we can kind of get an idea, and you'll know more because you live right in that area, is how much effect it's working. And so you're thinking that table talk, they'll come across and then walk up. Is there a sidewalk right on that side? Or-
Once they cross,
Yeah.
then there's a sidewalk.
Okay, and then they can go through that other little path just before there, could take you into the park.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Be it hereby resolved that report PW 2510 be received as information, and that council directs staff to proceed with the installation of 2 3-way stops, one at the Toddway Fennel Street intersection and one at the Applewood Street Fennel Street intersection, with funding to come from the Signs, Safety Devices, Public Works operating budget line. And further, that staff assess and report to council the traffic calming effect of the stop signs once installed, with decision to come in the future regarding the proposed Fennel Street tabletop crosswalk.
Perfect. Okay, mover and second, please. Moved by Councilor Young, second by Councilor Banbury. Any comments? All in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's carried. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and we have one more report. Denise. Welcome, Denise.
Thank you. My report is in regards to the use of the 2024 surplus. As Christine mentioned, we did run a significant surplus in 2024. A lot of things contributed to that. We had some gaps in staffing, interest rates were still quite high. We did have an unexpected WSIB rebate, mild winter, a lot of things. Anyway, we have a surplus, and our policy indicates that we top up keep the tax stabilization reserve between 5 and 10%, so I am recommending that we top it up to the 10% and put the remainder in the working capital reserve. This reserve we have used for different capital projects. As part of the asset management plan, we have suggested reallocating this to the different departments to help fund those reserves in the asset management plan, and so that will be reallocated next year with the budget to the different reserves.
Okay, any questions from Councilor? Councilor Dunn.
How will it be allocated? Will it be relative?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, to sort of, I think it was in the asset management plan, I guess, how it was currently in there, but the rest would be allocated, relative to the, yeah.
I really like that.
Mhm.
We're going to be allocating those instead of leaving them in kind of a,
Yeah.
catch-all reserve.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Do what you want, reserve.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just,
More disciplined.
yeah, I just got a question. With the tax stabilization reserve fund, is that, like, I'm just curious, the 5 to 10%, is that a recommendation from somewhere, or is that I know that's a part of our own recommendation. I'm just curious, do.
Oh, where does that comes from?
No, is there some places that do 15%? Is there some places that 5 is the maximum? I'm just curious, just for my own.
I'm honestly not sure that,
Okay.
where those numbers came from, that policy.
Okay, I was just curious. Okay, anything else from council? Okay, go ahead.
Be it hereby resolved that report TR 2408, sorry, that should read TR 2509, be received as information, and further, that the 2024 surplus of $640,095 be allocated as follows: tax stabilization reserve, $33,366, and working capital reserve, $606,729.
Okay, mover and second, please. Moved by Councilor Demers, second by Councilor Banbury. Any comments? All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Okay, thank you very much, Denise. Okay, reports from council members. Anybody have anything to say? Councilor Young.
I was just going to say we had a really successful community day last weekend in Plattsville. The numbers seemed a bit lower than the previous year, but still a really good turnout, beautiful day. It was, really good. And There's a few things starting weekly, that the music in the park is starting in Princeton tomorrow, and weekly barbecues and music in Plattsville are starting as well. And I think there's a breakfast happening this weekend.
In Bright, I think.
In
Yes,
Bright.
Bright, yep.
Awesome, so lots of good things happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else from council?
Yeah, we had with the community there as well, we had a successful car show. Had 65 cars, which was kind of nice, and lots of fun, and yeah.
Councillor Demers.
I just actually wanted to congratulate Councillor Barnes and Councillor Young for all the work that, their leadership in pulling those events off on the weekend. Yeah, the numbers were down a little bit, but man, there's some happy kids running around, and some happy adults at the car show as well. The accessible playground is just, if you haven't seen it, anybody hasn't seen it, you got to get out there, because that is something else. So, we should all be proud of getting that in place, and Trevor's team for getting the funding, or helping facilitate all that. But we do a great job when we collaborate, right? So good for you guys. Good job.
Two more parks left of Rocks from Hell, I call them. Yes. Yeah, I got tied up in the ball tournament here in Drumble that the Drumble firefighters put on. It was really good, considering it was supposed to rain all day. I think as of about Thursday, turned out to be an absolute beautiful day. It was a nice day for ball too. It was very well attended. Good crowds there as well. Splash pad was full, so it turned out really well. July 1st, I think our next meeting is the 2nd of July, so July 1st, I know the Drumble Heritage Society is having I think the Lions Club, is going to be there as well. It's their anniversary, as well as we're celebrating, that's part of our 50th anniversary, is going to be there that day as well. I think it sounds like it's going to be a good function. Let's hope that the weather is there. Come out and get some food and some things. I know there's some things for the kids. They're going to have some displays set up, so try to come out to that. I don't know if there's anything else, and you mentioned the Bright firefighters this Sunday morning. Anything else going on July 1st in the township? Not that I know of. Anyway, it was a good weekend, and let's look forward to some nicer weather coming up as we go. Okay, unfinished business, motions, notice of motions, new business. Councillor Demers?
So I'd like to read a resolution pertaining to the crosswalk in Princeton. So I'll just read it through, and then we can discuss. Whereas pedestrian safety is a key priority for the residents of the Village of Princeton and the Township of Blandford-Blenheim, and improved connectivity between the east and west sides of the village is essential to ensure safe and equitable access for all. And whereas the proposed location of a pedestrian crosswalk in the Village of Princeton will optimally serve the majority of pedestrian traffic, particularly those traveling from the residential areas on the east side to the key community amenities located on the west side of the village, including the Princeton Library Branch, Princeton Park, playground, multipurpose pad, and the walking trails. And whereas a centrally located crosswalk would provide safer and more direct pedestrian access for residents, including children and seniors, and better align with pedestrian traffic patterns within the village. And whereas council believes that effective pedestrian safety infrastructure must include more than basic pavement markings and signage, and should incorporate illuminated warning lights and prominent visual cues to ensure high visibility and compliance by motorists. Therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Council of the Township of Blandford-Blenheim formally requests that Oxford County locate the proposed crosswalk at the Elgin Street crossing as outlined, and there's a map, in order to better serve the needs and safety of pedestrians, and further that the township requests that the crosswalk design include at a minimum the following safety features: illuminated pedestrian activated warning lights, high visibility signage on both approaches, standard road painting for crosswalk delineation, and that a copy of this motion be forwarded to Oxford County Council.
Thank you, Councillor Demers. Any questions on the?
No, I think it's a good idea.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, I know I've had many people talk about wanting something. I know there's some handicapped children on the one side too, that this will help them as well. So, and this can be something that's brought up at budget time at Oxford County. And I think what'll happen is if it's not included in the budget, I'm gonna try and add it to the budget at Oxford County as well. I'll put that motion on the floor to add it. So hopefully we can get something go through, and then Oxford County can make that decision, county councils. Okay. Yeah, you need a mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Demarest, right? Second by Councillor Banbury. Okay, all in favor? And opposed, if any, and that's carried. Thank you, Councillor Demarest. That's a good thing to take forward. Okay, so instead of going right into closed session, I'm going to move the bylaws up because Dustin has to leave. I believe he's got probably another council to go to tonight. So we'll move them up now because he wants to speak on behalf of one of them.
Proposal, which is the Tiffany development. I just wanted to explain what's in front of you and how this came about. So if you recall, when the application came before you, they were requesting a total of 62 units, and staff were comfortable at 47, and Township Council supported the 62. So following that, Planning and Public Works spoke amongst ourselves of how we could potentially facilitate that, so that they are at least registered. And what we landed on was putting a holding symbol on 15 of the units, and moving forward to County Council with recommendation for approval at 62 units, provided that a holding symbol was included. So we went to County Council, and that was ultimately approved. Now, between myself, Public Works, and the applicant, we've had numerous discussions over the last couple of months, and we've worked together and finally got to a point where I think we were all satisfied with the wording. I know they're not here tonight, but I do appreciate the applicant working with us. So what you see in front of you is a zone change application that would put 15 units, and to be clear, they're single detached dwellings that would be put into a holding symbol. And the holding symbol would only be removed once either the second phase of the Drumba wastewater treatment plant is completed, or if 35 of the 47 units receive building permits, and Public Works confirms that there's still enough capacity in the system to facilitate the additional 12 units, or 15 units. 15 units, my apologies. If either of those scenarios occurred, then we would come back to Township Council requesting that the holding symbol be removed. So what this ultimately does is allows the applicant to register 62 lots, start working on building 47 of them, and provided they make significant progress, then look at the additional 15 also being issued building permits as well. So I just wanted to explain how we've come to this and what you're seeing in front of you.
Okay, any questions from council? Everybody understands that? So if you look on that one picture, you'll see on, so where it says R1, this is the holding ones here, and that's where the H here. So
Correct.
It's going to be those units there, just for council's clarity on it. Okay? All right. Thank you, Dustin. Okay, all in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried.
I'll do the second.
Yep.
Third and final reading.
Yep.
Be it hereby resolved that the following bylaws be now read a third and final time. A, 2501, 2025, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 1360, 2002, as amended for ZN 12101. And B, 2502, 2025, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council.
Okay, got a mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Dameron, second by Councillor Young. All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Okay, so that's our bylaws gone. Okay, and now we'll go into closed session.
Be it hereby resolved that council move into closed session under the authority of Section 239 of the Municipal Act at 5:44 PM to discuss A, CAO 2515, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality, Section 239-2C, regarding pending acquisition or disposition of lands, and B, CAO 2516, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality, Section 239-2E, regarding legal advice regarding enforcement.
Okay, can I get a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Banbury, second by Councillor Young. All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. And we'll just Okay? Okay, go ahead.
Be it hereby resolved that council does now adjourn from closed session and resume into open session at 6:22 PM and reports the following: that council provided direction to staff regarding report CAO 2515 and CAO 2516.
Okay, can I get a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Demers, second by Councillor Young. Any comments? All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Okay, anything under other? No? Just adjourn? Yep, okay.
Whereas business before council has been completed at 6:23 PM, be it hereby resolved that council adjourn to meet again on Wednesday, July 2nd, 2025 at 4 PM.
Okay, mover and second, please. Moved by Councillor Young, second by Councillor Banbury. All in favor? Opposed, if any, and thank you, council.